new legendary brawler Pierce is finally here, so here's a full guide on how to use him, and spoiler alert, Pierce is completely breaking the game. Now I'll be covering Pierce's crazy mechanics and how he works, the best build that you need to use for him, and the best game modes for this insane sniper brawler thing. So stay tuned, okay? And yeah, be sure to like and subscribe because buying this brawler completely nuked my credit card, okay? Now Pierce is the very first legendary marksman brawler, and his mechanics are very unique and a bit complicated. But don't worry, once you watch this video, you will be able to master Pierce, okay? But yeah, Pierce has 6,000 health at the max level along with a normal movement speed, which is pretty average for a marksman brawler. We're not counting Bonnie with 10,000 health, okay? His main attack pretty much fires a very long range shot, and for reference, this is the range of the shot, dude. If Pierce ends up hitting an enemy with his main attack, he will actually drop a shell next to him. Collecting the shell would fire an automatic piercing shot towards the nearest target. You get it? Automatic piercing shot? Yeah, that's not funny. But yeah, if you live under a rock, Pierce has a very unique reloading mechanic. Now, Pierce can only reload his ammo by collecting the shells that he drops after hitting an enemy. So if you're lucky enough and you end up hitting all your shots, you can literally just pick up the shells around Pierce and spam attack Pierce shots along with reloading your ammo. And if he completely runs out of ammo and you're not able to pick up any shells, don't worry. There's actually a timer bar thing right over here, as you can see. And once the bar is filled up, Pierce will end up reloading all of his ammo. Oh, I forgot to mention, Pierce's last ammo does some extra damage, which is pretty nice. His regular main attack does 1,900 damage at the max level, and the last ammo does 3,000 damage, dude. Now let's talk about Pierce's good old super, the fish in a barrel. Pierce pretty much marks an area with his super, and then whatever enemies are in the circle he marked, the super will fire piercing shots at those enemies. Each shot that Pierce hits with the super will also drop a shell, which he can pick up to reload ammo or shoot an automatic piercing shot. Pierce. The super also does 3,200 damage per shot at the max level, by the way, which is actually insane. I honestly have to admit, Supercell really cooked with this brawler. I think we were long overdue for a new marksman brawler, well, because Supercell was spamming assassin brawlers for the past few updates, but the mechanics of Pierce overall are very unique, and he has been a really fun brawler to use. And yeah, stay tuned because I'll also be showing the best build that you need to use for Pierce later in the video. And yeah, if you've made it this far into the video, comment your favorite thing about Pierce. Alright, now that you know everything about Pierce and his mechanics, here is everything that you need to know about both his gadgets and star powers. Pierce's first gadget, Bottomless Mags, pretty much allows him to instantly reload 1 ammo and also drop a shell next to him. If you think about it, Pierce is technically reloading 2 ammo with this gadget, because if you end up picking up the shell he dropped, he shoots a piercing shot and also reloads another ammo slot. This gadget is great in scenarios where you're completely out of ammo or you need some extra ammo to whack enemies out of existence, because as you know, if you run out of ammo with Pierce, you're gonna have to wait a fat minute to get all your ammo back. Like, there's gonna be times where you end up dropping shells out of your reach, and this gadget really comes in clutch because you'll instantly get 2 ammo slots back just like that, dude. This gadget also has a 13-second cooldown, so you can literally spam this thing if you wanted to. Pierce's second gadget, You Only Brawl Twice, is a pretty interesting one. With this gadget activated, Pierce will absorb all his shells and gain 1,200 shield for each shell that he absorbed. He will also push back any nearby enemies around him. So if I have 4 shells dropped around the map, for example, and I activate this gadget, I will literally have a 4,800 health shield bubble around me. And I can also push back any enemies nearby on top of that. I think that this gadget is great in scenarios where enemies are very close up to you and you're low in health. It's also great in scenarios where you have a bunch of shells scattered around, or if you're out of ammo and trying to escape from your enemies. And this gadget also has a 13-second cooldown, so you can spam it as well. Pierce's first star power, Mission Swim Possible, is pretty straightforward and effective. It basically allows his last ammo slot to slow enemies down by 30%. This is great because Pierce's last ammo does extra damage, so slowing your enemies on top of that can really help your teammates eliminate them faster by catching up to them. Pierce's second star power, Slip and Slide, is pretty interesting. When Pierce collects a shell, he will gain a short 15% burst of movement speed, so if you're trying to collect a shell that's near an enemy, you can collect that shell, get a 15% movement speed burst, and run away from that enemy. This star power is great, especially if you're trying to reload your ammo or pick up shells that are near your enemies or even far from you. But yeah, now that you know how Pierce's gadgets and star powers work, it is now time for me to show you the greatest Pierce build in the history of El Primus. I mean, bro, I've been using this Pierce build and look at how many trophies I have, dude. I am literally a pro player. And yeah, stay tuned because I'm also going to be showing you the best game modes that you should use Pierce in. If you're trying to get Pierce to the max tier, you're going to want to know which game modes he's best in, okay? But yeah, starting off with Pierce's good old gadget, I decided to go for the Bottomless bottomless mags gadget. Now, after using Pierce in a lot of different game modes, I've come to a conclusion that it's very difficult to reload his ammo sometimes. Like, there's time where I'm spam shooting the enemies and I just completely run out of ammo because I can't hit my shots sometimes. Now, you're probably thinking, oh, Kashewz, why don't you pick up the shells? Listen up. When attacking enemies, I'm also running away from them at the same time. So there's times where I can't pick up the shells that I end up dropping. This is where this gadget comes in handy. When I'm out of ammo, I simply tap the gadget, get an extra ammo slot, pick up the drop shell, and boom. I now have 2 ammo slots ready to be used. It's honestly really difficult to use Pierce with his reloading mechanic sometimes. Even when you run out of ammo, it takes a fat minute for him to reload. So it's best to use this gadget if you're constantly in scenarios where you're always out of ammo or even low on ammo. Alright, moving on to the star power, I decided to choose a mission swim possible star power for this build. The star power honestly comes in clutch when you're against players who are constantly running away from you or dodging your attacks. All you have to do is fire your last ammo slot, hit the enemy, and boom. They will be slowed down by 30%. But because you're out of ammo, you're gonna have to quickly pick up the ammo shells or use your gadget in order to eliminate the slowed enemy. Alternatively, your teammates can also just spam attack the enemy who's slowed down. But the enemy may be far away sometimes, which is why it's best that you reload your ammo fast and whack them out of existence. I find the star power extremely clutch in game modes like gem grab. If you manage to hit the gem carrier with the last ammo slot, you can easily eliminate them because they're slowed down by 30%. Also, since you're pairing the star power with the bottomless mags gadget, you can actually spam slow down enemies every 13 seconds. Once you run out of ammo, just activate your gadget and you'll be at your last ammo slot again. That ammo slot can actually slow enemies down because of the star power. So if you think about it, you can slow enemies down every 13 seconds, which is actually insane. Or you can just pick up the shell that lands next to you after you hit your last ammo slot and just spam slow down the enemy. I honestly don't think that Pierce's second star power is that great. All it really does is give Pierce a movement speed burst, which is temporary by the way. But yeah, for the first gear, I decided to choose the good old shield gear. I think that the 900 health boost is very useful for Pierce. He does have 6,000 health, which is typical for a marksman brawler, but that 900 health boost is extremely helpful, especially if you're against other marksman brawlers who are spamming you or if you're playing aggro against your enemies. For the second gadget, I decided to choose a damage gadget. If you're below 50% health as Pierce, you can deal 15% extra damage with this gadget against enemies, which is pretty nice. Since Pierce has a crazy amount of range as well, you'll be able to take advantage of this gear without close range brawlers trying to whack you out of existence, unless you're playing aggro and very close up to them. You could also take advantage of this gear against marksman brawlers, but because you're low in health, they may be able to eliminate you, unless you do some crazy insane dodging, bro. But yeah, now that you know the best possible build for Pierce, here are the best game modes for this insane legendary marksman brawler thing. The last thing that you want to do is use Pierce in the incorrect game mode and just lose a bunch of trophies. So stay tuned because these game modes are perfect for Pierce gaming. But yeah, starting off with the beloved 3v3 game mode Brawl Ball. Pierce was really good in this game mode. If you're playing in maps that have a few walls, you will be at an advantage with Pierce because you can just camp behind the walls and just spam snipe enemies from the long range. And you want to play a bit further away with Pierce because of his crazy range. This will prevent enemies from hitting you and whacking you out of existence. And at the same time, you'll be able to hit the enemies because of your crazy range. Now, you could obviously play a bit closer with Pierce because of some of his mechanics, like picking up the shells, which automatically shoots a piercing shot towards the nearest target. But I would recommend playing both long range and mid range. Now, one issue with Pierce and Brawl Ball is that if you're carrying the ball and have 0 ammo, you won't be able to pass the ball or shoot it anywhere. You'll have to wait for your ammo to reload in order to shoot the ball. And even if you shoot the ball, it ends up wasting one of Pierce's ammo and you don't even drop a shell. So when playing Brawl Ball, definitely keep an eye on Pierce's ammo, especially when you have the ball. Gem Grab is also an extremely solid game mode for Pierce. Pierce's long range is just a game changer, dude. And depending on the map that you're playing on, you can really cook with Pierce. If you're playing in open maps or even maps with some walls, like this one right here, Pierce can actually cook. You could become the gem carrier as Pierce because you're going to be playing in the long range sometimes where enemies can't reach you, but being the gem carrier really limits you from pushing into low health enemies and playing aggro. I recommend carrying at least 4 to 5 gems with Pierce and let your teammates carry the rest of the gems. This would put less risk on you if you ever decide to go aggro and push your enemies. Also, some players prefer to play Pierce at a closer range sometimes because of his shell mechanics. Picking up shells automatically shoots a piercing shot towards the nearest enemy, and if you're playing far, you won't really be able to take advantage of this mechanic. This is why you should sort of play Pierce in a hybrid manner. You could play him in the long range sometimes and then switch over to the mid range sometimes. That way you can fully take advantage of his mechanics, especially in game modes like Gem Grab. Alright, Pierce and Bounty actually cook. In fact, I feel like almost every marksman brawler is a solid pick in Bounty, especially if you're playing in maps with a few walls or even open maps. Now, because of Pierce's crazy range, it is really easy to cook enemies in Bounty. You can literally camp far away and just shoot enemies down without an issue. Now, the only time that you really have to be careful is if you're against any throwers or marksman brawlers. Brawlers like Tick are very sneaky and they tend to cook you without you even realizing. So make sure to dodge those thrower attacks and even snipes from other marksman brawlers, and you should be good in Bounty. Now, there are some Bounty maps that I would avoid though. If you're playing in maps with a ton of walls and obstacles, then it will be difficult for you to hit your shots because enemies would simply camp behind these obstacles. So make sure to play Pierce in a map that has a decent amount of walls and is mostly open. Now, I played a good few games with Pierce in Hot Zone, and he is pretty decent in this game mode. It is a bit hard to control the Hot Zone point with Pierce, especially if there's 2 points. Like in this map, for example, if you're playing as Pierce and defending this point on the bottom left, and a BB suddenly spawns with her speed, you might get cooked unless you react quickly and hit all your shots and spam collector shells. If you're playing in a Hot Zone map with 1 point though, you can get away with using Pierce. If enemies are controlling the point, you can easily spam snipe them off the point and let your teammates do the rest of the work. Pierce's star power is also extremely helpful because his last ammo will slow enemies down by 30%. So if you hit an enemy on the point with Pierce's last ammo slot, your team will easily be able to eliminate them. Knockout is basically marksman central, and since Pierce is a marksman brawler, this is the perfect game mode for him. Pierce's long range and mechanics are extremely beneficial in Knockout. I'm pretty sure that Pierce has one of the longest ranges in the game. His super is also extremely helpful if you're in a 1v1 scenario. Just pop the super on the enemy and that's a guaranteed 3,200 damage just like that. On top of that, you can also collect any shells from your super and they can pierce through walls, which can help you eliminate those enemies, especially those enemies who like to camp behind walls. I would honestly prefer to play Pierce in Knockout maps like this one. It's fairly open and you also have enough walls to take cover if you're ever against any marksman brawlers. Just be careful for thrower brawlers like Grom and Tick because they can easily spam attack you and whack you out of existence, especially that Grom super, bro. That thing is so annoying, man. But yeah, if you enjoyed this video, click on this video to see a full guide on how to use GG in Brawl Stars.